An emotional and important day for Beloit residents Saturday as they recognize International Overdose Awareness Day by honoring their loved ones who have died too soon from substance abuse disorders. WIFR reporter Alyssa Kelly attends the third annual Overdose Awareness Walk in Beloit, Wisconsin to learn about the positive impact this event has on the community.
Co-host Brooke McKern tells me every 7 minutes, someone in the United States dies from an overdose, and 72% of those overdoses involve fentanyl. For her, Saturday is more than just a walk.
I thought if you had asked me, years ago, would I be standing here talking about this? Absolutely not.
Brooke McKern lost her 23-year-old son back in 2018 to fentanyl.
It's easier today to get illicit fentanyl than it is to get mental health help.
McKern is now the co-host of Beloit's Overdose Awareness Walk, focused on honoring loved ones who have died from an overdose and offering resources to those who are still struggling from substance abuse, as well as grief resources for families who have lost a loved one.
We really want to bring awareness to everybody in a way that's respectful, kind, and not so harshly structured, where it's like, don't do drugs, or we really want to make sure everybody feels seen and heard.
McKern says it's the signs along the walk that share a powerful message to attendees.
So those signs represent a life that was.
This year, 22 new signs have been added outside of the Beloit Lagoon, where more than 100 people walked to raise awareness on this epidemic.
That's somebody's mom, dad, brother, sister. And that's the sad part, is those signs represent somebody who is very much alive, who never thought that they would not be here today.
I think telling my story helped me kind of move forward.
The event also featured 3 speakers in recovery, sharing their stories to inspire and to be heard. This is Sabrina Dowd's 3rd year sharing her story with others.
Getting it out there and kind of being proud of the progress I've made and what I've came from has helped.
The event concluded with a recovery meeting. The meeting was open to the community to remind members you are never alone.
If you or someone you know is in need of help, they can contact several places in the area like Vivint Health, Beloit Health Systems, and Rosecrance in Rockford.